A warm welcome to you again, Sean, and
Thank you.
everybody else. And Sean, if you can now share your screen, or if you want to say a few words before you start, but if you want to go straight into it, then let's start.
I'll go straight into it. So I'm just going to go to my...
All right, here's the test. All right, so go to the beginning slide, remember, Sean?
And then what do you do?
So remember, you're going to click back to the beginning with your arrows. Can you go back to the first slide?
I'm trying... Oh, there, it's going now. Okay, now it's working.
You just go all the way back to the beginning.
Okay, I've got it there.
All right, so once again, if you want to see Sean as the main the main feature and the slide small, you can do that, but as I mentioned, it's up to you how you want to do it on your picture. So Sean, take it away. Thank you again for your time, and we look forward to hearing your presentation.
Thank you. Well, welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you are. And as the rabbis mentioned, my name's Sean. I'll just tell you a little bit about me for the people that weren't at the other talk. I grew up in Johannesburg in South Africa, and I've been going to the bush since I was 2 years old, and I always had a great passion for wildlife, animals, dogs, cats, any form of nature and animals. And I had a dilemma whether I wanted to be a ranger or a vet. And then as time went on and we had subject change at school and that, I decided that the ranger path was the path for me to go, because when I went on holidays to the Kruger Park or to the Pilanesberg National Park as it was then, I just had my soul was at peace, and I realized that that was the place for me to be. So I then obviously did biology for matric, and then studied nature conservation through bush education safaris, and then qualified. And during my training, I spent a bit of time in the Timbavati Private Game Reserve where we did some training, and the Sabi Sands. Now these are game reserves adjacent to the Kruger Park, which I'll go into in depth a bit later. And then in the Marakele National Park in Tabazimbi. And then I started taking the tours. One of the things I remember for regard to my training was we were out in the Timbavati. The Timbavati is incorporated into Greater Kruger National Park today. And me and another guy weren't so well behaved that particular day. So when you do night shift, the worst shift would obviously be from 2 to 4 in the morning, because you can't sleep, and then 2 to 4 and you've got to get up at 5:30. So we were given the 2 to 4 in the morning shift, and we were on night duty, sleeping out in the middle of the Timbavati, or the Greater Kruger as it is today. And I remember saying to the other guy, everyone is sleeping around a fire, and we just had the Land Rover, and that was pretty much it. And I said to the other guy who was on watch, I'm just going behind the bush to talk to a man about a horse. And I turned around and I noticed a whole lot of things looking at me, and walked back to the Land Rover, and I got a big spotlight out, and in the distance there was a whole crowd of lions just busy watching us. And it was quite an adrenaline to be out there, have nothing there, and we woke obviously everyone up, and we watched, and how the lions just watched us, and we stayed up for quite a long time, and eventually how they disappeared into the night. And it was a wonderful experience just to be out with nature. The lions weren't aggressive or anything. They just lost interest and moved on. That was just one of the things I'm reminiscing about.
Just very quickly, Sean, sorry to interrupt you. There is a chat box. Sean has agreed to take questions. We're not going to answer questions as he goes through it, because obviously it's a little bit distracting, but after the presentation, we'll look what questions there are. And if there aren't any questions, I'm sure I'll have a few. And of course, feel comfortable to ask some as well. And Sean will do his best to address those. So feel free to put them in the chat, and I'll monitor them at the end of the talk.
Okay. Okay. So yeah. A lot of people think South Africa and Southern Africa are the same things, which quite clearly on this map they're not. Southern Africa incorporates Namibia in the west, Botswana in the middle, Zimbabwe, and then South Africa, Swaziland, and Lesotho. So as you can see, it's not just one country, but it's actually 6 countries. South Africa is separate. So South Africa is in Southern Africa, but it's not the same. And I did my training, and like you can see, was born in Johannesburg. But after I qualified, I started running safaris through into Botswana, up at the top into the Chobe National Park. and then into Zimbabwe by the Victoria Falls to the Wangi National Park, and then on the western side into Namibia, into the Etosha Pan, the Etosha National Park. So I've been to a vast amount of different national parks, different game reserves, and have a lot of experience and enjoy sharing my experiences over the many years I've done. But I am a specialist Kruger guide. So when I finished qualifying, I had such a passion for Kruger. I spent time in the Kruger National Park and specialized in Kruger. So Kruger is my speciality, but I do know all the places pretty well. Yeah, if you look at a map now just of South Africa, you can see Kruger on its northeastern boundary, which used to be the old Eastern Transvaal, and all the other little green areas.
Can you point with your mouse, or is it working? Or
can you see the mouse there point?
Yes.
Okay, so here's the Kruger National Park. Today it actually incorporates parts of Zimbabwe up in the north, and it goes into Mozambique. And the private game lodges a lot of people know about, Londolozi, Inyati, Exeter. These are on private lands over here with the Kruger National Park. So it's known as the Sabi Sands Game Reserve. And then on top of that's the Manyeleti Game Reserve. On top of that is the Timbavati Klaseri Nature Reserve. And then higher up's Baluli. So today, with the borders being open predominantly for elephant populations to be able to move freely, they opened up the northern area with Zimbabwe, the eastern area with Mozambique, and then they dropped the fences between the private area, and that will incorporate what we know as the Greater Kruger National Park today. And you can see also on the map many other little reserves. Where you go down to KwaZulu-Natal, where my mouse is there, that was actually the first reserve actually to be established in Africa, 1895, the Shule Game Reserve. The Sabi Game Reserve, which was the Kruger National Park, but only the southern district, was established in 1898, and it was known as the Sabi Game Reserve. I will go into a bit more detail, but I'm just trying to give you a bit of an idea of the different national parks within Southern Africa and now dealing with South Africa. So here is a detailed map of the Kruger National Park. And you can see, as I did mention, all the private concessions where there's a green line here. So this is national park land, and this is the reserve from top to bottom. It's about 440 kilometers from north to south, give and take. And from west to east, in national park land, it's about 65. When you start incorporating the Baluli, the Klaseri, the Timbavati, and the Sabi Sands and Manyeleti, it obviously is bigger. Now, with the inclusions up in the north, into Mozambique and into Zimbabwe, the Kruger at the moment is about 2.25 million hectares, which is like 2,250,000 hectares, which is a massive chunk and one of the largest national parks in Africa and in the world. Now, this picture has got a lot of meaning to me. You know, a lot of people won't understand, and I'm going to go into in depth. I wasn't actually sure of the direct Afrikaans translation, so I put it on Facebook and asked all the South Africans who are good at Afrikaans to help translate it for me. And this is what it basically says. It says, the welcome met Besuku National Park, visit your national parks, met die Suid-Afrikaanse spoorweë with the South African whale-nails, now the Transvaal Wildtuin, now the Transvaal Game Reserve. Now, this was how Kruger was called before it got the Kruger status. So I just want to do the translation and then I'll explain. And then it says, die selfsaamste toevlugwoord vir wild in die wêreld. And that is the unparalleled or the most amazing place for wild in the world. And it's simply, this picture has a lot of meaning to me, and I'll tell you why. When the Kruger National Park was looking to be established, the main players were President Paul Kruger, who was the first president who actively brought up the Kruger National Park in government and stated that land needs to be kept as the Creator made it. His words were, as the Creator made it for future generations. And a lot of people thought it was crazy. They thought in those times, in the 1880s and 1890s, it was for shooting. But he was the first president to do that. The other people that are the major role players in the establishment of the Kruger National Park is James Stevenson Hamilton and Minister Piet Grobler, Minister of Lands. And they, when they were pushing for establishment of the Kruger National Park, when they had established all the boundaries, they got a guy by the name of Harry Stradford Caldecott, who was an artist who lived in Port Elizabeth, I think, to be able to do a drawing to promote the national parks so that South Africans could vote for national park status, and the Kruger National Park, which is larger than as we have it today, would be able to be established. So this was the poster in the 1925 and early 1926 that was at every railway station across the South African Union or the Republic of South Africa, to be able to get the people to push and to promote for a national park. And on the 31st of May 1926, the Kruger National Park came into being. You can see in the early days, lions wandering freely amongst the vehicles, not only lions, but many other animals, the monkeys, the baboons, so many different animals, how they wandered through the vehicle. And a lot of people ask, don't they attack the vehicle? They're so used to the vehicles, they see the vehicles as other animals. And as long as you're not intrusive or try to do anything, they're not going to eat metal. Metal doesn't taste nice. They're intelligent enough. Sometimes they even use the vehicles for camouflage, and they actually would use it to be able to hunt and then spray it out. So this is how it was in the early years. Now this is at the Paul Kruger Gate, which is one of Kruger's main gates in the Southern District. And there's the monument of President Paul Kruger. And this is a beautiful picture because it's so peaceful and tranquil to know that someone so many years ago set aside land and had the vision to set aside it for people today, and to being one of the most successful national parks in the world. Kruger has over 1.5 to 2 million people a year and is known all over the world. It's got a Facebook page called BPOE Kruger Park, which means the best place on earth. I thoroughly agree with whoever made up that name because it really is. Unfortunately, with Corona, people haven't been able to go, and it's been very depressing. And yesterday, obviously rules can change, but I understand that interprovincial travel in South Africa is going to start to be allowed, that people from the different provinces, some countries and states are going to start to be allowed to visit the Kruger Park. Because today the Kruger Park is separated between two provinces. In the old days, it is the Eastern Transvaal. Today it's separated through the Limpopo province in the northern parts, and in the Southern District it's separated by Mpumalanga. Mpumalanga means place of the rising sun. So for the last while, only people in their provinces could visit that particular area. So people in Mpumalanga could only visit the southern part of the park, and people in Limpopo can only visit the northern part of the park. And this picture, for me, depicts a lot of peace and the vision to protect an area that so many people love and enjoy today. Now, that's another thing for fellow game reserve lovers, and that there's nothing better than seeing this. Now, this is gate closing and gate opening time. Now, at different times of the year, you're obviously allowed at different times. They work it with regard to the sunrise and sunset. Now, in December, January, the gates open at 4:30 in the morning, so it's pretty early. So it had to be pretty dark. But at this time of the year, when it's 6 or 6:30, this is what you wait up. Sometimes you can get here at 6:15, and the gates only open up at 6:30, and there's 25, 30 cars in front of you because everyone is anxious to get out there once those gates open and see what is out there. Every time you go there, it's a different drive, they're different animals. No two game drives are the same. Giraffe, beautiful animal. Obviously, a lot of people like to see giraffe. Magnificent creature, the tallest of the antelope, of the animals, sorry, the tallest of the animals, and wonderful to see them. Giraffe, tell you a little bit about giraffe. The males usually are bald on the top as they grow up, like me, bald here. Not that I choose to be bald, I'd much rather have the hair, but the males are bald on the top, and the females have tufts of hair, and they also usually have longer eyelashes. And they're beautiful animals to see when they drink. They're very majestic. When they drink, they can only go down for short periods of time due to the blood rushing to the brain. The heart is a very powerful organ, having to push blood up. And to see them in the wild, whether they're in groups, whether they're singles, whether it's a calf with its mother, and that is it's a wonderful experience. And a lot of people from overseas want to see, funnily enough, lion, elephant, and giraffe. That's like the status animals they associate Africa with. There's me on a tour that I escorted a couple of years ago in the Kruger Park. Many people, as I did for many people, it was their first time in the Kruger Park. This is on the bridge by the Olifants River. And I always enjoy being able to get the people out, because you're actually allowed, there's 2 yellow lines, and right in the middle of the bridge, you're allowed to stop and get out. And you can stand there, you can sometimes see elephants, birds. No guarantee is that's how it is with all nature conservation or game areas, but very nice just to get out there and be out in the wild. Buffalo. Now, everyone knows about the African buffalo, and a lot of people in America get confused with the bison. To me, I think the bison's like a big hairy buffalo, where the African buffalo is obviously doesn't have that amount of protection, doesn't have snow and need that thing. Now, the buffalo's got a lot of very, very interesting things the way it does. Now, when a buffalo looks at you, I always used to say, and the guys I used to work with, especially the males, this is a calf, so it obviously doesn't look so intimidating. But when a buffalo looks at you, it looks like you owe me money. It always looks like someone owes you money, because they give you that stare and they glance at you and they sometimes chew and they give you a dirty look. So that's always the stare I get. And many people do in taking pictures. This is a young male buffalo. And so you get groups of buffalo, what you call dugger boys. Dugger was the old mud that they used to make the African huts with. And usually the older males separate from the herd, and then they get kicked out by the new younger males, and they usually become full prey to lions. That it's quite dangerous because they're very aggressive. But the reason they're called dugger boys is because they're always full of mud, and like the mud that they made the bottom of the houses, the huts or the rondavels, the accommodation that they live in Africa, they were called dugger boys. They're very protective of their young, and I'm now going to show you a very, very interesting movie that was filmed in the Kruger National Park. It was called Battle of Kruger, and I'm going to show you some of the most fantastic and fascinating footage between buffaloes, lions, and crocodiles.
Yeah, so while Sean sets it up, if you've seen this video, I think I've seen a number of times. You can always watch it again. So even if you've seen it, I think you'll enjoy watching it again. And Sean, if you have any struggles, let me know. But Sean's going to now try and get the video up and running.
I'm on that shared page, and
See the link or no?
I'm not picking up that link.
Okay, so do you want me to do it?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to end Sean's sharing screen. I'm going to share my screen and find it, hopefully. We'll go to a YouTube clip. Okay, we'll go to, what was it called again? It's Battle
of Kruger.
All right, so enjoy this video, everybody.
Right over there, they're very intently watching the buffalo.
And Shawnee, maybe you'll talk us through a little bit if you can.
Sure. So look, the quality is not great, but there's nothing you can do. You know, they were busy filming. The main thing is that you can see what's going on, because this is fascinating footage, and once in a lifetime, not many people get the opportunity to see this. So we'll have to just bear with the footage.
That is a huge buffalo.
That's a huge buffalo.
It's a huge buffalo.
Now you can see the male leading the group with the big solid boss, the horns, because he's going to lead because he doesn't know what's up ahead. And this time he really didn't realize what's up ahead.
Why didn't he realize, you think, Sean?
Because he didn't see them. He didn't see them. They lie flat. They look like stones, like rocks.
Crouching.
She's quite thick.
And what the lion's thinking?
They're watching. They're waiting for it to come close enough so they
I
can
think
strike.
takeaways arrived.
Yeah. See the distance that they have to zoom up. That's why the quality is a bit pixelated. Obviously, this is a bit of an older video, not like with the technology we got today, but the main thing is to watch.
So do they usually smell the prey? Is that what he's trying to?
Sometimes they smell, sometimes they see. They use all their senses to be able to pick it up.
It looks like the buffalo's smelling something there. Is that
They're
right?
picking up something he's not sure, so that's why he's holding back, and the others will wait. Because he hasn't got a visual, and now he's suddenly got the visual, and they bolt.
She's going for him. She's going for him. She
Oh.
got him. Oh, she did. She got him.
If this is distressing to anyone, I suggest you turn around now.
God, did you see that? Oh my God.
So Sean, they clearly always go for the weakest link. Is that right?
Yes, so they either will go for the youngster, the older ones. They're not going to attempt a fully grown buffalo. It's very powerful when they've got a youngster, an older one, or an injured one to go for. They've got a better opportunity to get them, so they know that. So that's why they went for the youngster.
The buffalo coming to help this one now. Watch.
They're too
They'll
late.
come and help this baby. Watch.
They're too late. Can they help him out, Frank?
Yeah, they can.
He's still alive, you think?
Oh, it's still alive.
Sean, do you recognize where this is in the Kruger?
Oh, there's so many dams. I'm not on the rivers. I'm not sure. I'd be lying.
They're trying to drag him out. They're dragging him out. Hulle het nou net 'n kleintjie gevang. Hier's lekker actually so jongie. Hulle het 'n kleintjie.
Can you hear the? Can you hear
Ja,
the kleintjie gevang? The
lekker
kleintjie gevang,
kleintjie gevang.
which means they grab the young one.
Oh, it's so alive.
Ja, positief. Hulle het 'n klein buffel.
Now, if you look, there's a crocodile coming in now as well at the bottom.
He's a crocodile.
Ja, daar's 'n krokodil ook. Daar is 'n krokodil op die kleintjie. Yes.
Crocodile.
Check through the banners. The cops trying to grab the baby.
I mean, Sean, what are the chances of seeing this in Kruger?
There's never mind Kruger in anywhere. There are many people, 99% of people won't see this in their life. Even if you've been working in a game reserve or national park your whole life, you might live there for 25, 30 years and never see this.
Oh my God.
This is a once in a lifetime sighting.
Look at those.
The lions of the lions.
We've got a call that says that they remember seeing it in your Manwandi Dam by Fabeni Gate. So that's where someone says they think that that's where it was seen. I can't verify, I don't know.
Well, they're gonna come and try and chase the lion, but I think they're too late.
I think you're right. They're way too late now.
Now here come the reinforcements.
She's just like an army patrol arriving, eh?
Too late.
Oh, look at the teeth.
Is this natural for them? Is this what they would usually do?
I've seen something like this, not in this scale obviously, but I've seen fights between buffalo and lion, and this is what they do, but not in this league. Watch this now.
You guys, you cannot believe what's going on here. There's a big terrier between lions, crocodiles, and buffalo.
As you said, the rangers are excited, eh?
Yeah, this is once in a lifetime. This is 777 at the Pokies.
She swatted at him, kicked at him. He's kicking at him. Look, he's kicking at him. Ja, julle ouens, julle moet sien wat hier aangaan. Die buffels is besig om die leeu's te omsingel hierso. En hulle, want die leeu's het 'n klein natie gevang.
Watch carefully now where the lion are. Watch what happens.
Ooh, they got him surrounded. Ja, jy kan maar kom, Jan.
And that one's.
Ooh!
It was in the air, threw him in the air, 180 kilograms plus, thrown in the air with one swipe.
Did they get it back?
Now watch. They're chasing it. They're furious, as anyone should be. You're starting with the wrong family, wrong mishpocha.
This is the wrong mishpocha to mess with.
Yeah.
The calf's still alive.
It is?
Yeah, it's trying to get away.
Look, it's standing up, the calf. It's back up with the family.
They do have him back.
Now the buffalo aren't finished. They want to send them a message that they won't forget.
We're still chasing it. Oh, check, check.
The calf now is back with the family, and the lion have got to get out of there.
Gee, they chased him away.
I mean, a fatal blow could be the end of the lion.
Dead, killed. You know, a big buffalo, they recorded a buffalo male weighing over 800 kilograms, a male lion 240 kilograms. It's no comparison.
Yes, that lion's easy to see. But you see that buffalo throw that one in the air? Yes.
Should we end it there, Sean, or?
Yeah, that's pretty much it, because the main thing is how they went and got it. The buffalo just carry on taunting the lions, and that's pretty. Let me go back to the slideshow.
So just quickly, Sean, while you're going back, that baby buffalo, the calf, I mean, it clearly shows you how strong they are, that it could survive. It could survive.
They're very strong, and the way that it was able to do that and to come back and know that they had the numbers and they had the power to do it. You know, they're family orientated. There's some animals that just leave it, they don't go, but buffalo know they've got the firepower to take them on.
But would you? I mean, obviously it's impossible to really know, but would you think that calf would have lived to an adult?
So many people have always asked that. We don't know. The fact that it got up and stood up defied a lot of people thought it was dead. I don't think anyone knows if it survived or not, but you saw it did get back onto its hooves and was able to go back. So it was able to walk. I don't know how badly damaged it was, but you know, I don't know. I wouldn't be able to give you an honest answer.
Okay, fair enough.
So that's a very well-known thing, Battle of Kruger, and many different kinds of incidents you can see happening in the bush. So exciting. The interaction between these animals is fantastic. How mothers and bulls, cows and calves bulls will protect the calves, and how different animals protect each other. Sometimes even animals of different species get involved. And, you know, a hippo, I'm going to show you later, hippos will come in, and here's another very interesting thing I would like to discuss now. Now, this isn't actually in Africa. This is in India. This happened in India. Now, leopard are very adaptable cats. You can find leopard anywhere. There's leopard. There's even leopard that they say in the Negev in Israel. There's leopard in all parts of Africa. There's leopard only in the Caulfield, which is just about 60 kilometers outside of Johannesburg. Leopard's a very adaptable cat. And this happened in India. And the story behind these three pictures, which is not trick photography, it's actually fascinating, is a gentleman in India bought a cow from a salesman, and he had the cow, and for the first 3 days that he had the cow, his dogs were barking and going crazy, and he couldn't understand why the dogs are going crazy. They've got lots of cows, there shouldn't be a problem. So he put up CCTV, and he played this, and the next day he watched the footage, and he was absolutely gobsmacked what he was seeing. He couldn't believe that he actually saw a leopard, and a leopard could easily go and kill the cow, go for the youngsters, it's easy prey, but he saw a leopard come out of the bushes, go next to the cow and sit with the cow, and as you can see in the third picture, actually rest its head on the cow and the cow resting its head on the leopard. And he was absolutely gobsmacked. So he contacted the owner of the cow, and he said, "You're not going to believe me. I'm not drunk, but this is what happened." And the guy said, "It's 100% correct. What happened is unfortunately this male leopard's mother was killed when he was only 20 days old. And this cow actually adopted him and fed him her milk. And that's how he survived. And this leopard actually thinks that this cow is his mother. So this leopard lives outside in the bush. It comes every night to the village to spend time with his mom, and then goes back into the wild." And I think that's just so amazing to see a leopard and a cow, how animals, anyone can get on with anyone. And it's a privilege to be able to see and have something like this documented. And again, this isn't trick photography. This is a realistic thing that happened in India. There's a picture of a leopard I had with guests. Often had with guests, often offering me money. If I could produce everything I wanted, I would be a wealthy man today. But it doesn't work like that in the wild, you know. $100 extra for this and $500 extra for this. So this is a leopard we had one afternoon in a private reserve that we were at with guests. And we used to traverse the national park, as I showed you, and the private sector. And it's just such a magnificent animal. This is one of the shots I was able to capture. Another shot of a leopard in a tree. Again, leopards go into trees. They go into trees predominantly because they want to avoid confrontation. So when a leopard makes a kill, it usually will take the kill up into the tree, hoist it high up there to get away from the main worries, which are spotted hyenas, because spotted hyenas come in clans and they can push the leopard off, and the leopard's intelligent enough to know that that's a problem. Or if they come with lions or even other leopards, especially younger leopards. So a leopard is such an amazing and adaptable cat. Not only can it be found in any places in the world, but when it gets its prey, it puts it in its mouth and can lift it with in excess of its own body weight up a tree, and then get it into an area where it can feed over a couple of days, and the other animals at the bottom can just get the scraps. Now, there are obviously lions that can climb, but some lions are very good at climbing up, but not that great at climbing down. Some lions fall down and injure themselves. And as many people will be aware, if you get injured in the bush, there's no hospitals and that, it's over. So leopard are just fantastic. There was a leopard once caught in an area where there wasn't any game, and they didn't know how this leopard was surviving. So they went out and they followed it over a couple of days, and the leopard actually taught itself to fish. There were a lot of fish in the rivers, and it realized and it taught itself to fish, and that's how it survived, by fishing. So the leopard's an amazing, as many animals are, but the leopard's really amazing creature, very adaptable cat, and a very beautiful cat. Now this is, as I explained to you, the Kruger Park was established in 1926, and realizing the need to be able to build accommodation and roads for visitors and that, by 1927, when she opened the gates to the first visitors, there was actually 3 people that entered in 1927 when they had built some roads and started to build basic accommodation. 3 people entered in 1927. In the year 2020, we've got 1.5 to 2 million people entering. That's the major difference. It's incredible. And this was how the signage was done. Olifants means Olifants Ruskamp, elephant rest camp. Obviously, the river's name's Olifants, they used the name. The Taba, 28 miles, obviously, that was the old way we used to measure it, 9 kilometers. And at the bottom, the Gorge Rest Camp, which is closed, which doesn't exist today. But this was how the signage was done in the early days, with limited roads and limited signage. Today, signage is completely different. Well bricked, clearly marked with the gates, the distances to camps, and if you can see a cheetah on top of the signpost. Now, this is a very, very special sighting to me. I left Johannesburg at 12 o'clock at night. I went with some people, and we drove through the night to make sure we would be at the Kruger Park by 5 o'clock in the morning, because the gates opened at 5:30. So we wanted to get there, have a coffee, and then go in. And we went in, and for me, I'd seen many people that had, not many, because that's not true, but I'd seen people that had seen cheetah on a signpost. But I'd never seen it in 30 years of being in the bush. It was one of my wish sightings. And we were driving down the road in the H3. It was a nice, cool morning. It was actually, I even remember the date. It was December 16th. It was a public holiday. And some of the people were sleeping, and I saw it looked like 3 big plots of dung in the middle of the road. Because what's the chances of being cheetah? And as we approached, these 3 cheetahs got up, and I pulled my car up on the side, and I said, imagine one of them jump up. It will never happen. What's the chances? And within a minute of that happening, this cheetah walked past my car and jumped up on the signpost. And I was so ecstatic. This is the picture I took. I've got this picture on top of my bed, because I don't know if I'll ever see something like this again. It was such a unique opportunity. Now, some people may say, why is a cheetah standing up on these rocks or on a signpost? Cheetahs use elevated areas to look into the bush, to be able to see if there's small game or get a better aerial view, as people would do. So as if it's not using a termite mound or a low-lying shrub or a bush, it jumped up on the termite mound to have a view. And a magnificent picture and a privilege to be able to see. I've seen it once in my life, always can hope for another thing, but this was a very, very special sighting for me. I'm going to go into the birds as well. You know, a lot of people, Kruger's made up of many things. It's the birds, it's the eagles, it's the small birds, it's the water birds, it's the cats, the dogs, the antelope, the camp life, the making a braai, or what you call it, a barbecue at night, braaiing marshmallows. This is all what makes Kruger so unique and so special, watching wildlife documentaries out at night. And this is all what brings people close to nature, why people have such a passion and such a love for nature areas, whether that's the Kruger National Park or Etosha or any of the other various national parks. Now, this is the lion of the eagles. It's a martial eagle, a very powerful animal. It's capable of killing small antelope, snakes, lizards, very intimidating bird, very powerful bird. And I've seen a lot of martial eagles, and you can see if you look at the talons, at the claws, how thick and solid they are. You can imagine the damage it could do if it got hold of your hand. I mean, it could rip through the skin and tissue in that. A very, very powerful creature. This is known as a peregrine falcon. Now, looking at this, it looks like a pretty bird, but you wouldn't know anything special about it. But this has something very, very special. This is the fastest animal on planet Earth. It's known as a peregrine falcon, and at a full drop, because it swoops up in the air and drops, it can get up to speeds of 320 kilometers per hour. Now, the fastest land mammal is a cheetah, as everyone knows, between 150 and 120. There's always debates about the exact amount, but it's around about there. But this, being the fastest animal on planet Earth, is nearly 2.5 to 3 times the speed of a cheetah. It's known as a peregrine falcon, and it's found all over the world, not only in Africa. The beauty of the birds, as you can clearly see in this picture, is it's incredible. The colors, the blues, the violets, the turquoise. This is a lilac-breasted roller. One of the most magnificent birds. And when this bird flies and it opens up its wing, there's turquoise underneath the wings, with the violet on the chest and that. It's like looking at a moving rainbow. It's an incredibly magnificent bird, very common in the Kruger Park. It's also got a cousin, the European roller, that actually migrates from Europe to summer in Africa. And it's just a plain, I mean, it's obviously a beautiful animal because all animals are beautiful, but it's a plain blue. And that's the European roller. But this is the beauty, the lilac-breasted roller, a magnificent species and a magnificent photograph. Now, different birds are suited for different things. This is known as the kingfisher family. So this is known as a malachite kingfisher. Now, with different birds, their beaks will be made or are given different things. So you can see, if you go back to the martial eagle, it's got a very solid, strong beak. That's for ripping the meat and for tearing at carrion. Where if you look at the peregrine, it's also got the same sort of beak, but a smaller version. So it will go for smaller prey that it can also rip, again with the talons and the claws being able to rip. Then you go with a bird that's got more of an elongated beak and a thing at that. This is more of an insect eater. This isn't going to eat what the other two are going to eat. This is going to eat more lizards and insects and stuff like that. And then you get the kingfishers. And some of the kingfishers, you get a thing called a pied kingfisher and the malachite kingfisher, who obviously, as the name will predominantly go for fish. And then you get the woodland kingfisher, which is also magnificent colors, and it predominantly eats insects. That's insectivorous. So different birds eat different things, and their beaks will adapt to their diet.
Sean, just before you continue, just question.
Yeah.
I know we've got a lot of questions coming up, but in terms of the interest in your work bringing tourists, how many were interested in seeing birds?
Not many. And when we, that's a very good question, because when we weren't seeing stuff, my lecturer, she always used to say to me, you've got to fill in with the birds. Because these aren't, when you go on a game drive, they're not big 5 drives. They're not lion drives. They're not leopard drives. There are many drives you're not going to see stuff. They're not zoos. They are big nature conservation areas, bigger than countries. And a lot of the time, it's the trees and the birds that are going to fill in the time for where they're not seeing with their checklist that they've come. And if I find them a leopard, because they wanted to see a leopard, I'm the best ranger in Africa. And if I don't find them a leopard, I'm the worst ranger in Africa. So a lot of people come with, unfortunately, National Geographic does fantastic things, but they watch National Geographic and they don't realize those videos and documentaries and books takes years to make. And some people come for a week or 2 weeks and they think it's ample time and they're going to see lots of things. But you know what I love about the bush is it's unpredictable. Every game drive you go out on, you never know what you're going to see. You could see nothing for 3 hours and you could be 1 kilometer back from the camp and suddenly a leopard comes out. And that, excuse me, is what makes it so unique and so exciting. The unpredictability of what is around the next corner, what you will see, what you won't see. There's no guarantees. That's what makes it exciting. Everyone would know this, the Zazu from the Lion King. Obviously, Zazu's colors are a bit different to the Lion King, just to express him out. But this is a southern yellow-billed hornbill, nicknamed the banana beak, because its beak looks like a banana. And obviously, they have picnic sites out in the Kruger Park where you can just, there are little kiosks and a toilet and little shops and you can sit out. And the birds can use such entertainment. These birds and the glossy starlings and a whole host of other different birds come, they jump on the table, they try to take your food. You're not supposed to feed them, but some of them ambush you, get their friends to distract you, and then they take your food. And they all add to the ambience of being out in the real wild and being able to experience everything, as I said, from the trees to the birds to the sounds to all the various factors that make a bush holiday so unique and so wonderful. We have a white-backed vulture, and a lot of people aren't friendly with vultures. They consider them ugly or that in horror movies. You always see them in the cartoons and that, but vultures are fantastic creatures. They've got a very specific function. Every animal is specifically designed for a certain function. Now you can see a vulture's got a long, thin neck, and it hasn't got a lot of hair on it. Now, a vulture is not a killer. A vulture is a scavenger. It goes to kills that are left over, whether it's from lion or leopard or whatever they can get their claws into. And what happens is they'll go around the kill and they'll eat from the kill and they stick their heads right into the kill. Obviously, there's going to be blood and a whole lot of things that are going to stick to the neck. So by having feathers would make it worse. So it's actually got more of a bald neck. So when it comes out, it's easier to clean. And then it can be able to continue. So each animal is evolved in such a way and made in such a way that it's so specific for its function that it's designed for. Now this picture, I'm sorry about the quality, it's not the best, but there's a very, very interesting story behind this picture that I'd like to share with you. Now this was known as hippo rescue. Now if you can see the bottom part, there is actually an antelope. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but there's actually a young impala here. This is a young impala, and this obviously is a fully grown hippo. Now, the story behind this is fascinating. Again, in the Kruger National Park. And what happened is a young impala, again, I don't know which river or dam it was at, was looking to cross the water. And a crocodile came and tried to get it and started dragging it under. And a big male bull hippo saw this, and he charged, and he pushed the crocodile off. He chased the crocodile away. And he took this little impala, and the impala managed to get back onto the bank and then try to climb, get back onto the bank and try get back and try get itself revived. And the hippo actually walked off the bank after chasing the crocodile away and actually opened its mouth. Now, some people might think it was trying to bite or injure their little impala lamb, but it wasn't. It was actually trying to resuscitate it. It actually opened its mouth, lifted its head up, and tried to be able to help it to get back. Unfortunately, it took too long for the hippo to get involved and stop the crocodile, and it passed away. And then the hippo left, and the crocodile came and took the baby impala, and you know what obviously would have happened, would have eaten it. But the thing is how a hippo came to save this animal and the whole interaction that happened. I mean, again, a privilege, and just to be able to see this. And hippos are known for this. Hippos are known for getting involved when crocodiles. Now, a hippo is a herbivore. A herbivorous means it's a grass eater. So, and a crocodile is a carnivore, so it eats meat. So, hippos and crocodiles live together in the same waters, but a hippo is predominantly nocturnal, so it rests around in the day. Hippo sweat contains a reddish pigment that actually acts as a sunscreen. And then at night, they go out and forage. And, you know, people always talk about hippos being responsible for the most human deaths in Africa. They probably are, because what happens is hippos wander around at night and they go graze. And a hippo can graze up to 60 kilograms of grass overnight. A big male hippo can weigh up to 1,800, 2,000 kilograms. So that's some serious weight. and they go out and forage at night. And unfortunately, they sometimes go out into areas where there are villages and that. And if you separate a hippo from the water, the hippo is very aggressive. It'll come with you and it'll bite you and obviously snap you in two. Now, hippos are herbivores, so it's not going to eat you. So that's why hippos are responsible for the most human deaths. But you can see here that a hippo actually came to save. So when you hear about animals killing people and that, you've always got to get the full perspective of what really happened. If the people weren't walking around in certain areas where they know they shouldn't have, you never know. But that is why hippos are responsible for the most human deaths. And I think this particular footage and this thing that happened shows that all animals care and have a good heart and are sensitive creatures. A lot of people don't think animals are sensitive creatures. I think animals are more sensitive than most people. And they're extremely sensitive creatures. I think I'm an animal. And the bottom line is that animals are there to observe, to cherish, and to be able to share and to protect. Not only protect for you, but for others, for your family, and for future generations. And I think this is an important story to be able to show. And there are many incidents that happen like this in the wild. Here is a great picture. I want to go on to a thing called symbiosis. Symbiosis means a relationship between two species. Now, there's three kinds of symbiosis: mutualism, commensalism, and parasitism. Now, I don't have an example of parasitism because what happens in parasitism, if you have one of the animals or creatures kills another one, so that's why it's called parasitism. It parasites on the other one. The other two forms of symbiosis are mutualism and commensalism. Now, this is an example of mutualism, and I'll explain to you why. Mutualism means where both animals benefit. Now, this is a red-billed oxpecker, and it's on a giraffe. Now, how would both animals benefit from this sort of scenario? Well, what happens is the giraffe has ticks and little hochos and insects on it, and the red-billed oxpecker comes and picks it off. So it gets rid of the ticks and the insects, and the bird is getting food. So they're both benefiting. So it's a form of symbiosis known as mutualism. In this next picture, this is the second, and the only other one I'm giving an example of. This is commensalism. Why is this called commensalism? Well, what's happening here, you've got your virtual zebras, and they're busy grazing, and behind it, you've got a white cattle egret. Now, why would the bird be hanging around these zebras? It's definitely not admiring their coats and that, and it's not looking for a better view. What's actually happening here is the animals are eating, and as they walk, they kick up dust, which in turn has insects. And the bird is aware of this. So as these animals move, the bird is gaining food. So this is form of commensalism. The zebra doesn't benefit, but the cattle egret does. But the zebra doesn't get injured or sacrificed. So here is an example of one animal benefiting, but the other animal not being harmed. In this case, the zebra not benefiting, but not being harmed, and the cattle egret getting food. As it walks, it kicks up. Now, this also happens with cows, with wildebeest, with any other animals, but this is a particular example I'm giving for this particular photograph. Okay, now we need now we're going to play a fascinating video known as the Elephant Whisperer. We have been given permission from Tula Tula Game Reserve to play it, and we would like everyone to watch, as this man was known as the Elephant Whisperer, and this is just a wonderful thing for everybody to be able to see.
Okay, give me a moment while I set it up. And then after this, we are running a bit late, but we'll then take some questions. Sean will speak a little bit more, and then we'll take questions. There's quite a few already in the box. Okay. Hold on, it's just going through an advert.
Hi, I'm Brad Callen, and in this
Okay, give me a minute. It's just loading. All right.
It's not coming up.
Yeah, it'll come now. It'll come now. Just
Okay.
had to load it. All right, you should be seeing it.
Yes, thank you. It's there. The elephants are a matriarchal society, which means the females, especially the grandmother, is in charge.
You want to watch that part, Sean? No.
No, that's it. That's the end of it.
Okay.
So, can I carry on?
Yes, go for it.
So you can clearly see, I mean, the amazing things that happened there with the elephant, and what they did, and what amazing animals are. Now, just going to show you from this next slide. Now, he passed away on the 4th of March 2012. The elephant marched to the house to pay their respects to him. Now, obviously, they can't tell how would he have known he had died, and how would they also have known that where to go in the exact date. But not only did they come on the 4th of March 2012 to pay their respects, they came back on the 4th of March 2013 on the exact anniversary of the death of Lawrence, on the same day preceding the year. And the following year, for the 3rd time, the elephants returned to mourn Lawrence the same day as the 2 previous years. Now, 3 years in a row. They weren't told. The reserve is a big area. They came on the exact day. And I think this just emphasizes the amazing ability, the amazing creatures that animals are, and how wonderful they are, and how they should be respected and loved and cherished for us, for future generations. Because you can see what incredible animals they are, to be able to come and mourn and show respect as humans do. as elephants are known to mourn their dead, to come and mourn for him. Now, I'd like to end off with this picture, and this picture, the very special picture. This picture was done by Hilda Stevenson Hamilton. Now, the first warden of the Kruger National Park was James Stevenson Hamilton. And he, in 1902, started working in the Sabi Game Reserve, and it was because of him and President Paul Kruger and the Minister of Lands, Piet Grobler, that the current Kruger Park exists today. So those three gentlemen, from the work that Stevenson Hamilton did to be able to preserve the land and to stop poaching, to be able to introduce it to the public, to be able to call it the Kruger National Park, and to let people from all over the world see one of the most magnificent parts of the globe, to Piet Grobler, who was the Minister of Lands, who was who was in power, obviously, who pushed to be able to get it as a national park, because when they established the southern Kruger and the northern Kruger, a lot of the land in between was owned by private landowners, and they didn't want to all sell their land. And when Piet Grobler came into power, he gave them an option that they either have their land expropriated or they would be paid out for their land, but that land would be incorporated for the national park, because this wasn't a scheme just for Piet Grobler or James Stevenson Hamilton. No, this was a scheme for everyone to be able to enjoy the nature, the national parks, and all the wonderful wildlife that is there today. And because of these three gentlemen, we have what is known as the Kruger National Park. And then obviously Paul Kruger being the president, and the first president to actively voice his opinion to, as I said, to keep and put aside land as the creator had made it. Those were his words, for future generations. Now, this design was designed by a company in England called Wedgwood, and Hilda Stevenson Hamilton was a very good artist. So she did a lot of these plates, and she had different designs. And this design was when her husband retired from the Kruger National Park after 44 years of service, from 1902 to 1946. And I'd like to end off with the words, the sentiments that she sent to the South African public, to the world, and to the nations on her husband's retirement. And this is what she said. She said, "The warden of the Kruger Park resigns in 1946. Half a lifetime spent with the wild. He has made it what it is. With the help of splendid rangers and the approval of the board, turned it from a wilderness into something world-renowned. Essentially a sanctuary, and the difference from a zoo is that the lions wander freely among the cars that contain you. There is no such thing as vermin. Nature rules unspoilt and free. Woe betide the wicked poacher. The warden is his own JP. So alone upon his kopie, a kopie is Afrikaans for a little rocky outcrop, as he bids his child farewell, he advises his successor, keep it simple, keep it wild." Thank you very much.
Well, a virtual round of applause to you, Sean. As it was the first time I heard you talk at our Shule, it's been equally enjoyable and fascinating. And I know you could just talk about so many different aspects of your visits and things that you went through. And thank you for sharing all of that with us.
Sure.
The hour is late. It's interesting, there are a lot of comments, not necessarily questions. A lot of people sharing some fascinating resources. There are a few questions which I'll just put to you that were asked. Firstly, someone's asked, do you know of an app called the Nadav Ossen Drivers Game Spotting app?
Yes, I know Nadav. I met him. His father actually came on one of the safaris with it, and it's called. It's actually called. I've got it on my thing. It's called like Kruger something sightings and that. And what happens is whether you're in Etosha or that, you go onto it and you can see where other people have pinned sightings. I personally prefer to find the game, so I don't prefer to use the technology. I prefer to use just myself, but it is a good app. A lot of people use it. It's called Public Sight. I'll tell you, I've actually got it on my phone while I'm in Australia. I use it. It's called Latest Sightings, and it's very good. In the different reserves, people share their different sightings, and even they take pictures and post it so you can see what they've recently seen. So yes, I do know, and I've actually met his son, his father.
Right, wonderful. Someone has asked, have you heard of the work Kevin Peterson's doing with rhinos?
Yeah, look, there's so many different guys doing different things. Some of it's artificial, some of it's for, I don't know everything that everyone's doing in that. I'm more interested in the direct conserving of nature as it is as God created it and just to preserve it as it is. And the way to do that is to educate people, bring them in to be able to see it so that they can get a better understanding, and then they can promote it from the different countries they come from to protect it as the Stevenson Hamilton and his fellow people that he worked with for future generations, because that's really my goal. That there's lion walks and elephant safaris. I'm not into that thing. I'm just into preserving nature as it is.
Wonderful. Someone's asked, what would you say, is there a difference between being a ranger and a safari or field guide?
Well, look, there's different terms. Originally it was called a ranger, then it was called a field guide, then it was called a tour guide, but a tour guide's more of the time. There's so many different terms that a lot of people don't know. Some call it a safari ranger, some call it a safari guide. I've got a training where I could work in a place, but I prefer to do the education. So you get my qualifications, you get further qualifications where you do walks. I don't do the walks. I'm more in the educational side, and to be able to do the safaris by vehicle, that was my goal, to be able to educate people and show them the different areas. There are different avenues that you can explore.
Wonderful. You've got a very nice comment from Craig Youngleson.
Yes.
Who just, and I think he summed you up beautifully. He said you're one of the most respected, passionate, and professional game rangers. It was a huge loss to the South African wildlife industry. And the people who would have been honored to be one of your highly organized trips, gained immense knowledge, and had life-changing experiences to see Africa's magnificent wildlife. So many from South Africa miss you. Now, Sean and I were talking after his last talk, and of course, COVID-19 got in the way. We were thinking to do a trip to the bush, to the Kruger. So perhaps we can look at that down the track again.
Definitely. The more people I can have the opportunity to show, educate, and put my enthusiasm and my perspective so that they can see through their own eyes of nature, the better it is the more it gets spread, and the more people who become Krugerholics and passionate for wildlife. There's a Facebook page called, as I mentioned, BPOE, Kruger National Park, Best Place on Earth. And it's just the most brilliant name because there's people from every corner of the globe that have such a passion. And to be able to see those sort of sightings, and to be able to be out in nature and hear lion roaring or jackals calling or smell the fresh air or the sunrises or the sunsets, there's really, pictures and videos are great, but there's nothing like being able to have a first-hand experience and do it yourself. And it's a privilege for me to take as many people out as possible to be able to give everyone the opportunity to see one of the most magnificent parts of the world, and it should be on everybody's bucket list. And I believe everyone who loves nature and animals should at least go once to Africa, whether it's the Kruger Park or Etosha or the Serengeti, and be able to experience what I consider the most soul-restoring and most magnificent holiday and best place to be for just pure relaxation.
Absolutely. So, for once again, a big thank you to Sean. A couple of things as well. As I said, Sean, we will look at an opportunity once we get through COVID. But Sean is welcoming people to touch base with him if you have any questions about the Kruger. If you are going on a trip, he's very happy to answer questions. Now, as you can see, Sean is got a beautiful neshama, a beautiful soul. He's caring for animals, and he also has a business. I don't think it's really a business in the sense because he does it as a passion. But he's got a pet care, dog walking, and pet minding.
Yes.
I would say there's no better person to look after your animals if you do need someone to look after them. So I'm giving him a bit of a plug. If you do,
Thanks,
if you do need that service whilst he's living currently in Australia, so you can get in touch with Sean. I've tagged him in our Facebook page, so you're more than welcome to get in touch with him. And he does, as I said, a wonderful job doing that.
Thank you very much, Rob. I appreciate that. What more can you ask than a ranger to look after your fur babies when you're away?
Exactly. So once again, thank you everybody for joining us. Tomorrow night we continue with not tomorrow night. Tomorrow night is Monday night. So Tuesday night we have part 2 with Bev Sacco on our Jewish history, exploring Ashkenazic Jewry. And then on Wednesday night we have a fascinating talk with his name is Pinchas Shule. He's talk about from being an altar boy, a monk, to being an Aleph Bet, to being a religious Orthodox Jew. I heard this talk some years ago, and it was so fascinating. That's on Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. And of course, all the other things we're offering, stay in touch with us on Facebook, or if you want to join our WhatsApp group or email. But again, a big Yasher Koach to you, Sean, and to everyone who's joined us.
And thank you, Rabbi, and thank you everyone who's joined. And please God, in the not too future, we can all be able to enjoy a safari together.
Amen, amen. And thank you for all your your patience learning Zoom.
Sure. That was the most difficult part.